Good afternoon and good evening for IsenhourSpeaks fans, the Confederate moment. We missed last week because I was too lazy. I was too scared about the virus. No, actually, I just didn't have anything to say, so I just didn't want to bore you. One of the things that we have come across in the last couple weeks as we now have been quarantined is we need to start thinking more about what we should be thankful for. An example. The governor and his minions of satanic diversion in this state, I mean, they're just all over the place. They want to take our monuments down, but they can't do that because they can't have those meetings and stuff. So again, in the sense that we are now having an opportunity to still maintain some sanity with our monuments and things, despite all the laws that these evil people have passed, they will not be able to succeed in their goals because this virus is actually going to cull out a lot of different things. This virus is coming out is a way that people are going to be judged in ways that we've never even thought about. First of all, we have to realize that the laws that they passed in the General Assembly earlier this year have not gone into effect. They go into effect legally on July the 1st. And so they are not law at this moment. In addition, some of the laws that they passed were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just ridiculous. And they will be challenged in court. And while we do have some crazy judges out there, the majority of these things will be shut down. So we also need to realize that this is a time that we have to spend with our families and our friends and get close to each other and realize that we are the ones that make the country work. In fact, that's kind of funny, isn't it? Because the fact that we're all sitting at home and not working, the country's not working, is it? That's the problem. The country's not working. And that will be something that we'll have to get back to pretty soon, or else we really will be in trouble. So during this time, if you're taking a lot of opportunity to, I say, read the Bible and study and get back to what we Southerners have always had, and that is God. We've always had God in our lives. And that's a wonderful thing. That's what's made the South such a wonderful place to live, because we have good family, we have God in our lives, we have a system that we respect one another. We have a system that when we go out and engage our neighbors and we help our neighbors and these type of things. This is what we've got to come back to. And this is an opportunity to remind us that God's in charge. So, or what are you using during this time? Are you really reading the Word of God? Are you coming back to God? If you are, that's the right thing to do. If you're not, I'm going to suggest that you start doing it. President Trump, in the latest talk about when he put a news conference last couple of days, he said that maybe by Easter, we'll be back to work and be able to go to church and things like that. Some people are just screaming, we're going to lose all this. It's crazy. We need to go back to work. Most of us can go back to work and engage with each other. We're not going to spread this virus anymore. Now, you have places like New York. Hey, guess what? New York City has a virus problem? That's kind of interesting. Los Angeles has a virus problem? That's kind of interesting. Chicago has a virus problem? That's kind of interesting. San Francisco has a virus problem? My question is, why is D.C. does not have a virus problem? Think about that for a moment, folks. All these politicians are all gathered up in D.C., but yet they are not suffering the way the rest of the country is suffering. It's another thing to think about. They're sitting up there and they can't pass laws without doing their own private little games. Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Schumer, they don't have the respect to be a senator or a House representative. They don't have the respect to have those titles. They are causing trouble for their political agenda. It's interesting. Do they not think that their grandbabies and family might catch the virus? Do they think that somehow that this is good for the country to not be working? I don't know. These are questions that good people are going to be asking a lot of. They're fighting President Trump again. For what reason? The man made a statement, hey, I wish that we could get back to work before Easter. Trust me, I would like to be back to work last week. So I'm all with the president. Again, this quarantine and all this stuff is not working because we have to be able to function as a country. We have to be able to function as a society. Yes, some of us are going to get sick. Some of us may die. But guess what? That happens every day of the week. Can you tell me the time in your life where this is not so in this country? And they talk about this pandemic. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I see it as a made-up thing that man has made it up. In fact, I blame the Democratic Party on this. That's why Nancy Pelosi don't want to change. They're saying that we want to put in rules that are going to change the society. Gee, that reminds me of some guy named Barack Obama who did the same thing. Isn't that funny? They're still carrying on this thing that we have to transform America into their vision. Really? Why is that so? Why are we going to allow that to happen? And that comes to the next thing. If we are going to be back as a society, we're going to have to make decisions as citizens. And those decisions are to come together and start acting appropriately. We need to really sit and think about what we're going through right now. And we do not have to sit here and listen to the craziness that you see on the news. Cut the news off. Can you tell me the name of one journalist, one person on television? I don't care whether it's Fox News, I don't care whether it's CNN, just tell me one individual who is not whacked out of their mind who's on the camera. Think about it. They're all whacked out of their mind because they live in Washington, D.C. or New York. See that connection there? Washington, D.C. and New York. They live in that world. They're not in our world. Our world is out here in America. Their world is there containing those little situations where they talk among themselves. So if you're allowing a journalist who lives in Washington, D.C. or New York City to influence your life, who's the fool? Think about that. So rather than rely on their lies, and I'm talking about Fox News just as much, they're just as much hyping this stuff as anybody else. The president goes on 2 or 3 times a week and talks logic to the country, and before he has even got it out of his mouth, they're already distorting it. And that's Fox News and everybody else. So why are we listening? It's not important to listen. What's important is that we come back as citizens and start acting as American citizens. Can you imagine the reaction that our grandparents would have over this? Yes, we're going to have diseases running rampant in this country. That's kind of always been the human race. And yes, we need to have there's smart things we need to do. And yes, there's certain things that we should do better than what we have been doing. I'll agree with that. But to allow this just craziness to overtake you over something that is not that big. Call me crazy, but the numbers don't lie. They talk about, oh yeah, but if we don't do this, oh, this will happen. Oh yeah. Well, that's life. Please explain to me how that's different. And also, if all this stuff is so crazy, they say 1/3 of the nation's locked down. Well, what are the other 2/3 doing? That's not all hospitals and doctors. Businesses are running at full capacity in the big world. Now, small businesses are being hurt huge. Restaurants and small businesses are being hurt. Why is that? Why are the big corporations still able to do? Think about this. In West Virginia, and I love West Virginia, not against West Virginia, but they are producing these masks that we're supposed to have. Well, wait a minute. Aren't they afraid of getting the virus up there? Why can that company run full tilt and make masks? Well, why can't the guy down the street who's going to do basketballs run full throttle and make basketballs out there or baseballs? What's the difference? If you're going to have corporations that can, if you will, evade this and still have people go to work, which I'm all for. I don't want them out of work. I want them on the job. Why is the small businesses the only one that are shut down? Explain that to me. Why are the small businesses the ones shut down? I just went through earlier today through the drive-through at McDonald's. It was nice. I went and got me a double cheeseburger. It was nice. It's good. What about those people who are working in McDonald's? Maybe they had the virus. They pass it. I mean, can you imagine if someone has the virus at McDonald's is coughing on our food and then putting it into a bag and we're going through a drive-through? I'm not against McDonald's. I'm just using it as an example. It's crazy what they're trying to make us believe that somehow we're supposed to sit at home and do nothing. Really? 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 You know? Folks, you've got to think about this. How long are the American people going to stand for this nonsense? It doesn't make sense. This business can be in full production. This business can't. You can only do this, but you can't do that. It doesn't make sense. It's not how America works. And again, if I were to sit down and be paranoid, I would say, gee, this sounds like something that Joseph Stalin would do. Gee, this sounds like something like Lenin would do. This is something that Castro would do. And in many cases, they probably did those things during their reigns. So why are we allowing our American government to do this to us? And then you have the problem with the state government. Kuhlman, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name. That governor of Virginia is now saying that we're going to be shut down in Virginia for 3 months. What? 3 months? What? Really? And he now has, it says that his goons, and I don't know who his goons are, but apparently he thinks he has some, are supposed to come arrest us if he finds more than 10 of us gathered together? Really? Really? You're going to come shoot us? I mean, what are they going to do? Then they can put us in jail, but I guess that's the good news. Put us in jail so they can release us in jail. You know, it doesn't make sense. So Kuhlman is saying that we can't be together with over 10 people. And he's going to have his goon squads. Like I said, I don't know who he's talking about. But he thinks he has some of these goon squads that will go and start arresting people. Really? So you're not going to have weddings? You realize that right now you can't even have visit your grandchildren in the hospital when they're born? That's ridiculous. What is this? Folks, think about this. What is the purpose of this? And when you think about this, you'll start being Americans again and realize that we are people who overcome. We are people who do things, but we're law-abiding citizens, and that's what they're using against us right now. They're telling us, they're making us paranoid. Paranoid. Over what? You know, the coronavirus can kill me just as much as the flu can kill me. But the flu sometimes kills 60 people. What, 47, 50,000 people a year in this country die by the flu, but we don't shut the country down. And they say, oh, this is different. This was different. This is different. And that's the funny thing. There are more theories about what this virus does or does not do than odds to bet in Vegas. You know, this week they say, oh, well, this one does this. Oh, it does that. But may I remind you that South Korea is working full capacity. They isolated people. They had their people tested. The ones that were positive, they quarantined. But South Korea is in full production. They're working. Their country's not shut down. And they're a whole lot more, not congested, that's not what I want to say. They're more together because they're in the big cities. They don't have a lot of country folks in South Korea. Gee, I understand that China's ramped up. China's back to this. Wait a minute. 1 billion people who started this thing? And China's now back to production? Really? Well, you have a whole lot more deaths there if this thing is as bad as they say it is. Think about this for a second. You had Wuhan down there, and you had a couple thousand people die. I'm sure, you know, it was all nice and conspiracy. But yet China's back to full production? That doesn't make sense. Why would we not be back to full capacity? Again, we can take precautions. I agree with you. If you're elderly and stuff like that, you can be quarantined. There's nothing wrong with those kind of steps to be rational about things. But the unrational part about this is they're shutting us all down. For what purpose? To destroy this country? And keep in mind, if a Democrat says you should stay at home and you should not work and you should obey the law, then you know it's satanic right there, because anything that comes out of that party's mouth is all satanic, 100% satanic. So anything that they do is always against the people. Please tell me a Democrat who's ever done anything for the people. Not in the last 100 years of this country. That's a fact. So the Democrats are telling you to do this, and you're listening to it? Really? Our president now saying we're going to be back to work in another week or so, 2 weeks, and they're crying and screaming and, oh, we can't do this. Oh, we can't do this. And then at the same time they're doing that, saying that we can't do this for our safety, right? They're not going to give us a relief package. Please tell me how that computes. Please tell me how that computes. And for you people who actually vote Democrat, please never approach me. Never let me know that you're that stupid, because that kind of stupid virus is costing this country a lot of stuff. So if you're a Democrat, I don't care whether your granddaddy was a Democrat, I don't care your mama's a granddad, you are stupid and you're a fool and you're foolish to vote for them. And I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm quarantining myself from Democrats. I don't want anything to do with you people. You're evil. You're 100% evil. So folks, we need to get back to Saturday. What is America? Americans work. Americans are industrious, and Americans go out there and do good things for people. We're the ones generally going overseas helping people who have these viruses and stuff. Whether it was the Ebola, whether it's AIDS, it was all kinds of things that this country's out there doing. So why are we now all of a sudden a fear of our shadow? Think about that. You got to think about this. Why are we afraid of our shadow? Because some Democrat tells you to be? Really? And while I love President Trump, and I think he's got some great people around him, I think that you ask a doctor, hey, should I still be in quarantine? Well, a doctor's going to say, well, yeah, because the doctor doesn't want to get sued. Yeah, the doctor, he's going to get his paycheck. But to a family that says we need the food on our table, I've got to go work as a provider. We have to do this. And again, remember, if Korea, South Korea, which has millions of people, and they're on top of each other, they're back at full capacity. We're in America, we don't have but 30 million people in this country, which is very large. You know, America is pretty big, folks. A lot of space in between us. Why are we now succumbing to that? And again, if you're in different states, there's not that much corona out there. I mean, even North Carolina places, I think you've got 50, 60 people who are sick in a state of 8 million people, and you're going to quarantine everybody else? Oh, excuse me. You're only going to quarantine the ones that are most productive. You see what's happening here? This is showing us that we are not being Americans. We're being somehow reduced down to just nothing more than, I guess, Social Security numbers. I don't know. But folks, get up and start thinking about this and quit being so damn paranoid. What are you afraid of? If you have the blood of Jesus on you, what are you afraid of? Downside. Okay, I go out here and I get the coronavirus and I'm dead next week, so I can't do IsenhourSpeaks next week. Well, I can tell you one thing where I will be next week if that happens. I'll be in heaven. Does that sound like a bad place to be? And guess what? Because the governor will quarantine, y'all won't be able to come to the funeral. In other words, I'll be able to throw me in the ground. And nobody will be at my funeral because you can't have more than 10 people out there. So you won't be able to mourn for me. It doesn't matter to me because I'll be in a better place. So if you have that attitude about what your life is about and where you're going to go, it kind of puts into perspective of why we should not be so paranoid, particularly because the Democrats tell us to be. Folks, I hope to come back with you next week, and I hope I don't get the coronavirus. But if I do, praise God, because I'll be with him. So with that, I'll leave y'all and do some thinking about this. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.